Hello, I'm Shamit.
I'm Reagan, and this will be our presentation to you guys about screen addiction and how it affects everybody and everybody's daily use.
Now I will start it off. Screen addiction is a disease that has evolved along with the advancement of technology for people of all ages. To define screen addiction, it is the compulsive and excessive use of devices such as tablets, computers, smartphones, and TVs. People who are addicted to the screens are prone to waste many hours of their day in front of a screen, neglect their responsibilities, and even fall to depression. This is because screen addiction, just like any other addiction, can create many psychological issues for the user. There are many factors that which can cause addiction from social media, video games, and online games, and many more. Screen addictions will continue to be increasingly a problem for people, especially teens, due to the advancements of technology, increasing the satisfaction and entertainment levels for the users. One one example of screen addiction is the overuse of texting or the mobile phone. Many people today find it have very hard times to be separated from their phones. For example, most people find it difficult to answer the question when it was their last time that they had used the bathroom without a phone because they cannot leave without their phone. Excessive texting can increase the chance of communication disorders for people and lead to the lack of social skills. From a technological perspective, texting has changed and improved, now having many different features. There are messaging games, texting effects, and group chat features like polls that make it much more satisfying to text than talk. And there have been many more features on the phone as well. But the excessive use of the phone will make it harder for generations to survive long periods of time without their devices. Another addiction of video Another example of addiction is video game addiction. Video games have been around for a long time, bringing a form of entertainment and skill-related games to the household. However, people, mostly kids, started to excessively play video games, forming extreme addictions and a technology forming extreme addictions. In a technological perspective, video games have evolved to become very complex and intense year after year, producing better graphics and improvements, which has led to more and more kids putting their time into these games. These features have made gaming into playable fantasies for kids to leave their reality and enjoy their time in fiction. However, it is very difficult to leave that state and accept the reality of the situation. From a human's perspective, being addicted to video games can be a lot like being addicted to drugs or gambling. There is evidence that this addiction has the ability to lead to changes on the brain similar to substance and gambling addictions. This can lead to psychological issues such as depression and social problems as well. If you let it, video games can be very destructive, like drugs, alcohol, and gambling. As you can see, it is a recurring fact that mostly the younger generation who suffer are the ones who suffer the most from screen addiction. This is because our technology has been able to advance to where kids can watch or play on their phones almost anywhere at any time. Now moving to the last example, which is scrolling addiction, which is just being addicted to scrolling through short videos or posts like TikTok. Studies show that these addictions will encourage procrastination. Many people have lost their productive hours by forgetting everything to be in a trance of scrolling through their phone for hours. This risks your responsibilities such as your schoolwork, your chores, and much more, and maybe even keeping human relationships. The reason why these rabbit holes of addictions are so deep is because the technological abilities of these apps. Apps like TikTok and Instagram Reels know what kind of content you like. So in these softwares, they use these complex algorithms to keep giving users things that to their liking to make sure that the content they watch every time they scroll, it will be something they will enjoy and it will be hard to leave. This leads to a state of void in the user's mind to keep scrolling despite the responsibilities. Now I will be passing it to Regan to finish up.
Thank you, Shan, for passing it to me. Now I'm going to go over how this actually affects everyday students. So according to an article called Smartphone Addiction Among University Students written by Ismail Alberson, they say that 62.6% of university students suffer from screen addiction. This is a serious issue for students because the screen addiction will cause them to have reduced productivity, meaning that the screen addiction causes them to be distracted, procrastinate, and have reduced ability to focus. And screen addiction doesn't just affect your schoolwork, it also affects your physical and mental health. Experts say that screen addictions can cause obesity, disrupt sleep schedule, as well as loss of sensitivity. When people are gaining high levels of satisfaction from phones, real life events can't cause the same sensation. As you can see in the graphs, many kids have been accustomed to being addicted to their screens, which will continue to be a habit until even their college years. More than half of the kids spend way too much time on their phones, and 41% of kids even spend too much time on social media. However, as you can see in the bottom, if kids are made to realize how serious their screen addictions are, they can be convinced to reduce it. So what is the main cause of screen addiction? Screen addiction is caused when your brain craves the dopamine that it once had. Each time you scroll through TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube short videos, or apps similar to these, your brain releases dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that gives you the feeling of pleasure, satisfaction, and motivation. So when you don't use your phone, you go through dopamine withdrawal, and the want and crave for dopamine causes you to grab your phone and keep scrolling so you can get that feeling. Now, there are ways to stop and prevent this feeling. The best option is to just go outside and enjoy the world without electronics. Go for a walk, go to the park with your family, go be social with friends. This will actually cause another release of dopamine, but this will be a positive reinforcement dopamine release. Another way is just to turn off your notifications. The same with how your brain releases dopamine when scrolling through apps, it also knows that notifications can cause a release of this chemical. This causes you to want to grab your phone, look at what the notification says, read it, and go on it. So by turning off notifications, you eliminate the risk of wanting to grab your phone. And lastly, you can delete social media altogether. Social media can be a plague because it makes you want to compare yourself and your status to that of others. And once you grab your phone and start scrolling through videos and pictures of other people, your brain releases dopamine, which keeps the screen addiction from going away. Now, what are some changes that could be made to apps like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts that could change this? For this question, I'll narrow it down Instagram and explain how changes can help. First off would be to add a screen timer. Apple products have a feature similar to this. It will require the user to enter a password and consciously make the decision to enter the app. The act of having to bypass a password and not gain free access instantly could be enough for a user to have second thoughts and put the phone down instead of using it. The second feature would be to add one that sends notifications congratulating the user for being off the app for a certain amount of time. An example of this would be if the user hasn't used the app for X amount of time, Instagram will send a notification saying, "Good job, you've been off the app for X amount of hours." This would also be a form of positive reinforcement for the user and cause them not to want to use the app. Lastly, and probably the most logical solution would be to add a grayscale. These apps that are very addicting to users often use bright, vibrant colors. They know that the brain wants to focus on stuff that sticks out. So when you open the app and see bright, vibrant colors, your brain enjoys that and wants to engage in what it's looking at. This causes a high release of dopamine. The grayscale counteracts this by changing a wall of bright colors to a wall of different shades of gray. This causes the brain to have to work harder to decipher what it is looking at, and thus less fun and engaging for the brain. This causes less dopamine to be released, helping with screen addiction. Now I'm going to pass you back over to Sham for the conclusion.
Thanks, Regan. Now, in conclusion, there are many negative effects of screen addiction. From psychological issues and responsibilities, screen addiction will negatively affect one's life. There are many forms of this addiction, so it affects people of all different types in all different ages. From social people to video gamers, screen addiction must be treated just like any other addiction because it can be just as bad as drugs, alcohol, and gambling addictions. Thank you.
Thank you.